I like to start early on Lombardi time. That's usually 5 minutes before. So we're going to get started. Welcome, parents and students, this evening. My name is Kit Lidke, building principal here at River Falls High School. To my left is Cal Johnson. Cal, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I'm Cal Johnson. I'm one of the school counselors here. We have 4 school counselors. Really excited for the class of 2025 to come in. Got a chance to see some of those students even this morning. Mr. Lidke and I got a chance to go over to the middle school too. So really excited to do this presentation with you guys today and go through some information that we think is very, very important for your students.
We talk about tonight being a really important night, and we're apologizing again due to COVID that we're not able to do this live. Usually we have a packed auditorium, but again, Cal and I are going over each and every morning this entire week, talking with all of the 8th graders, all of our 8th graders and parents tonight too. You can watch this again, because again, there's a lot of things going on in this. Also, please, we have a live chat going on during YouTube, and at the end of this, we'll try to answer any of the questions you have, because I'm sure multiple families and students have that question as well. So we're going to get started with our presentation. First point to ponder, looking at our screen, we want to really first and foremost talk about the importance of River Falls High School, that it's more than just academics. Schools were obviously founded on behalf of academics, but a lot of what we do also is character building and things that I always refer to 50% of what we do in the classroom, and everything else is another 50%. That could be our clubs, our activities, the wonderful relationships that students forge throughout the school district here at River Falls. All of the time we're encouraging students to find and be their personal best and take healthy risks here at River Falls High School. We have over 165 classes over the 4 years for students to choose from, so there's always going to be a spot here at River Falls High School for students to find that personal best. You want to talk about balance maybe just a little bit too?
Yeah, I think balance is a huge part to making sure a student chooses a course load, chooses their content, really based on what they feel like they can truly handle. I think a lot of times our students, they get caught up with maybe trying to keep up with their peers. Maybe they have a peer who's maybe a little bit stronger in the content area. We're really promoting students to make their choices based on the content that is best for them. And so even though they may have a peer who's maybe rich in math and does a great job with it, we want to make sure you guys as students are choosing the content there too. As we go to the considering keeping balance, it also goes to your activities at home. We talked a little bit this morning, even with our 8th graders, about as you get to your sophomore, junior year and you start to get to the work and the career balance of things, if you're already struggling a little bit academically, or you're struggling at home, or maybe the social or anxiety piece, adding a job into it may not be your best fit at that time frame. Although we want to get you there, we also want to help support you through that process too. And then also your passions and interests. One thing we'll talk about even in this presentation, and as we go into it further, is that we talk about our students being involved in at least 1 to 2 activities outside just a regular school day. I think it's really important to note that if you come to school and you're just doing class, and then you go home and that's kind of your main kind of repeat, rinse cycle that you do as a student, one of the big things that we feel like we need to do is get you involved in different things outside of just the classroom. I think that's when those really great connections happen. I think that's when those opportunities for people to celebrate you and your accomplishments, and you get to learn the teamwork and the hard work that all goes into those items too. We really want to make sure that our students are having the opportunity to do that too. And then just being a well-rounded, healthy individual. We talk a lot as a team, student services, our assistant principals, Mr. Lidke, all of us as a team, we talk a lot about social, emotional health. The middle school's done a great job in the character education and working on social emotional health too. And so really that's our ultimate goal. Although we want your students to be academically ready and prepared for the next step in their life too, we also want to make sure that they're ready and healthy and from a mental standpoint and from just their own physical health too. And so that's a very important piece to it also. If you are a student in our virtual school too, I want to make sure I do mention that these resources have also gone out to your students. This is virtual. We've actually created videos for different class levels. And so be sure to be watching your email, looking at the newsletter that Jennifer Peterson's sending out too. We want to make sure that you guys have that information too, and you know that that's available for you.
One last thing I'll mention, Cal and I, again, in the mornings are giving students a resource packet. I know you as parents are going, gosh, I'm never going to see that. It's going to be in the bottom of that locker. Ask for the yellow folder to be shared with you at home. Our last group of students will be getting that Thursday this week, but there's a great amount of resources in there. One of the things that we have is our career planning guide. We're giving every incoming freshman an actual booklet. Instead of just looking online, you'll have that to work with your child about, talk about all the great opportunities there. In that folder as well, there's some practice registration sheets And most importantly, I think, again, like Cal mentioned, all the activities and athletics that River Falls has to offer. Again, we know when students participate, students are more successful in school. We have almost an 80% participation rate here at our building. So our goals tonight, just talking through some things, our basic is for you to understand what our schedule looks like here at River Falls High School, understand what it means to have a working transcript. We'll touch on academic and career planning and what it looks like in 9th grade, and then we'll discuss the registration process with you. And again, at any point you have any questions, please ask in the YouTube chat, and we'll try to answer them at the end of the presentation itself. So Cal, why don't we talk about the ACP guide?
Yeah, so jumping into the ACP guide, you guys will see on the screen here, this is our latest and greatest ACP guide. I think one thing that River Falls does extremely well is that we do a good job giving you guys all the content within a one-spot area. So this is right on the high school webpage, but also with our students that we're able to see in person, this is actually going to be given to them physically. Our students that are virtual school, this has been shared out already in a linked fashion, but obviously can be still found on the webpage too. This guide's broken into 3 parts. It's really wonderful information. It starts, really the top headline is yellow, and it starts with just general information. I believe it's extremely pertinent information. It's information that is going to be about credits. It's going to be information that they need to know for what core classes they have to take throughout their high school career. It's information that's going to talk about either our systems and different things that we have in place here at River Falls High School. The middle portion is actually the career cluster and pathways area. So this is where we're really asking our students coming into their freshman year what they need to have to be able to explore and go through the content. And so that middle section is going to go 16 different pathways. It's going to break it down into different career fields, different ideas that you can have in that career field. And so really that's just an area for you to have a resource and have information overall for our students. And then as you get to the tail end of the book, this is the stuff that I think is most in the front of everyone's mind right now because we're in course registration time. And as part of that, it's going to have our course information. We'll do a breakdown in a slide or two here that's going to give you a little bit more information in regards to how that course information looks. But this is going to be really where you find what the class description is, what grade you take a class, is there a prerequisite? The example that we gave this morning for a prerequisite would be if a student wants to take Spanish 2, well then they have to take Spanish 1 before they can take Spanish 2, and so just using a very simple example of that too. But in our booklet, there's some more defined prerequisites for a student to be ready to be successful in that class. The reason for prerequisites is truly based on a student being successful. We're not trying to put barriers in or doing anything along those lines. We're trying to make sure that our students can be successful in the content and be able to be ready for what that class is too. So the explanation of classes here, as we go through it, you'll see it on the slide. We're using Spanish 4 as an example. So I was just talking about prerequisites. As part of those prerequisites, we're talking about Spanish 1, 2, and 3. Those are all courses that you have to take before you can take Spanish 4 and be successful in it. So as part of that process, we also get to show you what our course number is. Now that's mainly for our counseling team and how we track students' credits. But the really important pieces for a student to have here is what grade you can take a class in. What is it an elective, what type of credit is it, how much credit is it worth, and then the course description itself too. And so we want to make sure you guys could see kind of an explanation of what the course listing is. Now in the academic career planning guide, we actually have this information in there too and laid out in that general section so that you guys have this for reference also. So then we go into the basics of what a daily schedule is going to look like. We have a block schedule here at the high school. The next 2 slides will show you a little bit about a couple examples of 2 schedules that would be for a 9th grade student. But on here you'll see we have 3 lunches. One thing we highlighted this morning with our 8th graders is just how wonderful the high school lunches are. I'm sorry, middle school, but you just can't keep up with what we can offer for lunches. We get to do a pizza bar, we have different things for burgers, we have all sorts of options. Our students could have anywhere between 3 to 5 lunch options on any given day. As a high school boy, I remember the exciting ability to be able to have 2, so the fact that our students could have 3 to 5 is pretty awesome. So we do 3 different lunches. Obviously, we're a fairly large district, and so it goes and it's based on your Block 3 teacher, and so that'll be information we talk more about as your student gets on site here and on campus too. As we go through the block schedule too, you guys can see the times. One thing mentioned too is that we have 8-minute passing times. So I think sometimes students get concerned or worried about the size of our school and can they make it or get there. Truthfully, there's most places in our building where you can make within 4 minutes very easily. We built in some of this additional time just for our students to kind of be able to breathe between classes, maybe get some minor socialization, refill their water, take a bathroom break and do those things too. But that's been very, very good for our students too. Going into one of our first examples, we have kind of a traditional block schedule, so what a schedule could look like for a student coming into their 9th grade year. So you'll notice there'll be some core area required classes that we'll talk about here along the lines of English 9, algebra, your math class, broad field science, civics, geography, health, intro to physical education. But there's also elective examples on this, and those are actually the courses that our students get to keep. Every time I talk to 8th graders about the opportunity to choose their own courses, you can actually see them kind of light up about the idea and concept that, for the first time in their academic career, they get to choose a class. And they haven't been able to do that in the past, maybe to a degree with some of their music courses too, but they really get to kind of go outside the box and choose a class here that they really have a passion for and that they love to do overall too. So you can see kind of what a traditional block schedule would be, but as we go to the next slide here, we usually get a lot of questions on what an A-B schedule is. In middle school, our students have a day 1 and a day 2. Really, I think the easiest way to traditionally define it is that the 1 equals an A, the 2 equals a B. So you would take these classes every other day. So this is an example that if you were a music student, you're going to take concert band, and you were going to take concert band as an A day every other day, and then the back end, the second half of that day, would be Algebra 1. So this allows you actually to stay in your music programming, while possibly even slowing down in your math content. We talk a lot about math, we talk a lot about the different content areas, and really we want to encourage students that if you are very strong in math, yes, go for it, and you can double up if you want to get to that advanced math, but there's also that opportunity that you can slow down. Block schedules are wonderful in many, many ways, but it can also provide a long time between the next time you take a content area class too. So for the opportunity to slow down maybe in a math content or an English content is actually a very, very good opportunity, and that's kind of the benefit to our A-B days, being able to slow down in maybe an English content area or an algebra content area, or even Spanish. We offer many, many classes in the A-B function too, but here's an example for a music student too. As a 9th grader, I think really what drives us, what really makes it important for us from a counseling team, is that we're really looking for our students just to kind of get into that know and explore phase. We want our students to really have the chance to just say, what am I interested in? What do I have a passion for? What do I love to do? We're never going to ask a 9th grade student, like, what is your career that you're going to have in your future? We're going to ask questions along the lines of, what types of things do you have a passion for? What type of things do you love? And go along those lines too. And so when we talk about academic career planning and we provide opportunities in a student's homeroom or focus time, we're really looking for that explore phase and allowing students to get the opportunity to gain more interest and more insight. So when we talked about the academic career planning guide, that middle section in the booklet, this is really those types of questions that we're asking. And as a parent, you'll actually have some guiding questions in the middle part of the academic career guide, and it'll actually allow you to just kind of ask those questions that we're asking too, so you guys can have the same conversations at home that we get to have here at school also. As we get into graduation requirements, you can see on the screen here, these are our core area requirements that we're looking through for grade 9. In our academic career planning guide that you guys will have access to, there's more in-depth for each grade, so you can see grade 10, you can see grade 11, and grade 12. But right now, we really want your students' focus as a freshman to be mainly on these primary requirements. Your student has 5 credits of required classes that they have to take for their freshman year, and so that leaves them another 3 credits of choices that they have available to them to be able to choose and have those elective choices that we've shown and talked about in the previous slides. On the right side is also our graduation requirements. We do a very good job setting up our students with core area requirements throughout their 9th, 10th, and 11th grade year, that many of these required credits happen already seamlessly through our planning, but we also make sure that students are aware of these and that they know that they're working towards these being completed too. There's some to highlight in here too that we talk about more. One thing is speech. Our speech class is for grades 10 through 12. We really ask for students to take that at any time that they feel ready for it. That's really based on maturity and readiness too, and so I think previously in the past it's been taken in the 10th grade year. We really want to make sure our students are taking it based on their comfort level too. So as we project out for their sophomores through senior years too, just one of those things to have in mind also. We have our math sequencing here too. From a 8th grade to 9th grade transition, this tends to be the biggest question I think that we get from a registration is, what math do I start in? Why am I starting in this math? Kind of what's my thoughts for what my next math is. And so really we work very, very hard with our 8th grade math teachers. We talk a lot with case managers and other individuals too, in regards to making sure that your student's placed in a math that they can be successful in. So if you come home and your student has a math request or a math sheet and you have further questions, I think you either communicating with us as a team at the high school or talking with Ms. Dusek in the math department, their math teachers at the middle school, just to gain more information about that. I think they'd all be happy to answer those questions too. As you can see the math sequence here, and we go through it where we talk about students doubling up in math. That's pretty common phrasing that you hear. The realism is that you want to make sure that your student truly has a desire to go into a math career field. Engineering, they're math very, very gifted in that area too, that we don't want to overwhelm a student's schedule. I think a lot of times we do see a ninth grader coming in, they maybe take a lot on their schedule with the math courses or additional challenges, and so when we talk about having a balanced, a well-rounded student, this is a point where we want to make sure that our students are referencing to. The other part is actually you can accelerate in math almost too quickly, and you run out of high school options to take those courses too. And so it's okay to slow down, and if you want to make up time later on in your high school career, that's obviously going to be built into the time frame that you have here as a high school student.
This year with COVID too, we've talked with the middle school transition team just based on the level of content delivery overall. So please, parents, reach out and trust your math teachers with that. If we have to make any pivots or adjustments due to COVID because of content coverage or just firm understandings in any of the algebraic or pre-algebra concepts, we're going to make sure that our math teams help your students in that transition. The last thing I would also state that Cal kind of reiterated again is begin with that end in mind if you can. We don't want to have students stop taking any mathematics in their sophomore or junior years. If you look at the top there, it says they only need 3 credits of mathematics. Students could technically complete that by the end of the first semester of their sophomore year. We're encouraging pacing in that. One of the reasons for that too, if you look at something like the ACT exam, 70% of what's on the ACT is either Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. So making sure that our students have firm understandings in those core concepts is really important when we build off of those things in either statistics, pre-calculus, or calculus. Uh-oh, we're coming backwards.
One sec.
There we go.
All right, so then we kind of get into, we're talking a little bit about basics, and we'll just glance on this just very briefly. We talk a lot with 8th graders about the transition from 8th grade to 9th grade and what it means to receive credits in high school in comparison to receiving credits in middle school. Students, realistically, if they were to possibly not pass a class in middle school, they would just kind of go on to that next class. And so for us here, we actually track, we're going to consistently have those grades. Those classes matter. We got to make sure that we're passing them. And I'm a firm believer in a student, if they're struggling academically, as long as they're reaching out to their counselors, they're reaching out to their teacher, they're working with their parents, they're completing their work, they will be very successful in the high school setting. Where we see students possibly not be successful is when they aren't completing the work and they're not part and engaged into the learning process too. But we really want this transcript that tracks your students' grades to look as good as possible. On the transcript, we talk about GPAs, and what that looks like too, but this is really just kind of a brief introduction to transcripts. We'll talk much more about that as your student progresses through their sophomore through senior years.
And again, one of the things as we talk about transcripts, although they are very, very important and they should tell a picture of the student, we want to make sure that, again, we look at the whole picture. And some of the things that we see now is students trying to maintain a very high achieving transcript and some of the anxiety that comes with that. So please, again, talk openly and honestly with your students about what classes they should be taking, when they should be taking them, and making sure that they have that great balance of social and the academic side of things here at River Falls High School.
We're also making a very important point in regards to the ACT test that many of our students take their junior year. It's a test, it's a snapshot of a day. It's neat because many of our colleges, universities have gone to the point of looking at students as a holistic approach. So they look at that student for who they are, the types of things they're involved with, what type of community service work they're doing, how they help their classmates. Some of their coursework obviously is important, but it's less based off on that ACT and those things along those lines right now too, which has been really wonderful to see a lot of our colleges go in that range too. And so we really want to make sure that your student does focus on being that well-rounded student too. We have gone towards a Laude system at River Falls High School, so no longer do we do the valedictorian or salutatorian process too. So you'll see the 3 ranks here on the right side of the slide. The easiest way to probably define the Laude system is that it's your student's GPA, so essentially all their grades averaged over their academic career here through the 3rd term of their senior year. and then it's basically times the amount of Laude points that they receive per course. So as we look at the next slide here, and then also in the ACP course booklet, we have courses essentially matched up with the amount of points that they're worth. And so you will basically tally all those courses up that your student has taken with them, and then you'll times it by the GPA too. And so we're looking at this, we're reviewing this and just making sure it's consistent. Really, we just want to make sure that this is within your guys' mindset as you're looking at classes and planning for future courses, and really looking at those prerequisites and other classes that you may want to get to too.
And that Laude point sheet, the full sheet of that is found right before all of the course descriptions that we have. The basic premises behind a Laude system is, if you can take a look at there, is you would see that there is capstone coursework in all of our departments, not just core areas. We want students to excel and find their best and be challenged in any department. And so we have lots of advanced and capstone courses in all of our departments for students to pursue in. So it's not just our core areas or AP coursework. There's lots of opportunities for our students to excel.
On that same Laude documentation too, there's a calculator link on there too. So we make it very easy for you to be able to calculate that Laude and get those updates as your student progresses throughout their high school time.
Let's talk a little bit about transitioning. We've started our welcome message. This is kind of our first kickoff with that, with registration. Our hope this spring still is when our seniors are ready to graduate, we will bring all 8th graders over where we'll have another orientation just to get them excited prior to leaving for the summer. The main point of that meeting is to walk around our building for students who haven't been in it, for them to go through all of our club and activity tables and maybe show some interest in some of the clubs or organizations that we have, and just kind of ease some of the concerns prior to leaving for summer. And then in summer, in early August, we'll come back and we'll have our kind of a mock day for our students. We'll have a half day. They'll receive their schedules. They'll be able to walk through their schedules, and we have a great transitional time. They'll meet their homerooms, and we'll do some icebreakers and activities. And again, that's really a fun day that our SOS students really put together and have a great transition. If you have concerns as a family related to other types of things, we're always here to help you. Talk with your current counselors, and we can work on some individualized transition plans if need be. So maybe there are some IEPs or other concerns that might come up. We're always willing to help and listen and help that transition to be ultimately a success for every student. We see River Falls High School as a springboard off into the adult life, whether again that's college, military, work, or anything in between. And again, we're here to help that student be their personal best.
As we talk about becoming connected here too, this is just a list of the variety of different athletics and different items that we have available to our students too. Really the overall message is to get involved. There's more information within our academic career guide also about the different clubs and activities we have here too. As we go to the next slide, it gives us a little bit more information in regards to other clubs, activities. So you can see we're really striving to make sure that we have something available to all students. We also love getting recommendations from students. It's really neat to hear the different things that they have for ideas, and then we really take those to heart and look to see if there's things that we can help all of our students be involved in. As Mr. Lickey said, we have just over 80% involvement rate of our students, ideally, and we really want to see 100%. We'd love to have all of our students engaged or in part of something that's bigger than just coming to course, work, and doing school. We want them to be a big part to something bigger than themselves too.
A majority of the clubs that you see up there were founded by students. When I first got to River Falls High School almost 20 years ago, there was maybe about 8 to 10 clubs at best. So we've expanded that, and if students are interested, we can try to work with those student groups and organizations if we have enough student numbers and advisors interested. We always try to give it a shot and make that work. In the past, we've had things like paintball club, and that kind of has fizzled out, but if that resurrects itself and goes well, great. We've had an ice fishing team. Due to COVID with tournaments and things, it hasn't been as robust this year, but we're hoping to bring that back. Lots of great opportunities for students to think about and being a part of.
So as we get into the registration worksheet, this will go home with your student if they're here physically. If they are in a virtual school setting, this has gone out in a link fashion. We did it as a fillable form this year just to make it a little bit easier for students to be able to have all the coursework and how easy it is to choose those things too. We're not asking for this sheet or this document to be churned into student services. The neat part is that this is really being used as a tool, and Ms. Dusak will actually be inputting the information in the science classrooms next week. Our freshmen coming in, their official due date is going to be February 5th, but they'll start actually entering these early next week. We just want to make sure that you guys have optimal amount of time to really look through this course content and be able to make the choices that are best for you too. And also, if you guys have questions, you can reach out to us to make those decisions. The process for actually inputting into Infinite Campus has been shared via video too, with both the virtual school and regular students also, so we want to make sure that you guys have those too. And then after being input into Infinite Campus, we'll be printing off the signatures page for parents, and that will be sent home so that we can make sure that our parents can be obviously a part of the opportunity to choosing classes and part of the conversation too.
Again, we try to close with this again because we get really excited, and I remember my son last year in registration, who's now a freshman, gets really excited about taking all the classes and all the options that are in that book. Again, keep a balanced mind in that, and you have 4 years to do that. Your first year as a freshman student here at River Falls High School, there's a lot of the basics that you have to take. But as you move through your 4 years at River Falls High School, there's a lot of choice and voice. And the more you work hard in those first 2 years especially, the more opportunities present themselves for you as a student here at River Falls High School. So be mindful of that. Try to talk about where that balance is. There's no race other than what you're running yourself. You're not competing against your classmates anymore. It's all about really presenting your best each and every day, both academically and more importantly as a student here at River Falls High School.
For more information, obviously we're going to be here to answer questions too. We left this kind of an extended time slot too, just knowing that this is a grade level that we tend to get more questions, and so we're happy to answer your guys' questions on YouTube and live here too. But also from a student services, as your student transitions to the high school, we want to make sure you guys know who's kind of your people. We get the opportunity to really work with families and parents throughout the whole 4 years. So sometimes your students are going to change teachers or have different people throughout their high school career, but we get to stay consistently with your students. So we welcome the opportunity to grow that relationship. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to any one of us. We're happy to help you guys out and answer those questions too.
We'll have any parents or students. I've been trying to keep up with questions on the YouTube chat as they come in. Are there any other questions that we can help out with that are pending? And if we don't have any today, again, our offices are always available. I'll even give you my cell phone number, 715-307-4036. If you've got individual questions, I'm happy to answer any of those for you as well. We'll just wait just a minute. Again, we're really sorry that we're not able to meet in person. It's usually a really fun and exciting night, especially for incoming students. Again, you're always welcome to come in and say hi. And again, have a wonderful rest of your week. If you've got questions related to registration, we'll be here along with the Student Services office over at the middle school. Thanks again and have a nice evening.